Cool. All right. So I'm just going to switch this over to this screen so that chat can see the see the notes that I'm making. So once we've got our corpse, we need to talk out just have a chat about what our community looks like. What crowd the script the thing says what crowded neighborhood, parish, slum, or script town are you all languishing in? So, what kind of a space are we from as not corporate? Are we parts of? Are we actually corporate employees that are doing things on the downtime? Are we parts of some slum, like slum town, or are we in a are we all like living in an area where everything is controlled by the corporations? Like, are we how much are we dependent on the corporations in our community? Because there are probably areas where we talked a little bit about the idea of like write-offs of people that are just disposed of. And I can see there being communities that are kind of considered to be living in the dump and that sort of thing. But then there's also we can also be like living in a relatively, just like a more proletariat, like working community and things like that. What do we feel like?
I wouldn't mind being in between those spaces.
Yeah.
The reason I say that because I had no idea for a location first, because I'm always aesthetics first.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
But I was thinking, like, since this is like kind of almost like started out as like a theme parks for the rich kind of thing, that maybe there is an old hotel that was designed in like a kind of Art Deco aesthetic, and there's like a grand ballroom, and the grand ballroom is like kind of run down, like the velvet is peeling off the walls and stuff, but like that's our headquarters, and then like the rest of the old hotel could be like workers' apartments.
I like it.
So it's kind of a little bit run down.
Yeah.
But everyone literally just gets like a hotel room size space. They don't get like a full apartment.
Is anyone getting like seasons like 2 to 4 of Angel vibes here?
Oh my god.
I went right to American Horror Story personally.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there's so many. I feel like old hotels are such a good constant theme in horror, cyberpunk, science fiction in general.
Because like hotels are kind of like a parody of a home, right? Like.
Yeah, it's also a liminal space where people come and go, and they can be whoever they want to be, type of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a place that we could, that workers could reclaim as well, from that the corporation discarded this building, and that it's something that the workers were like, well, we'll make use of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Cool. I like it. Do you want to?
You go.
I just want to say, do we have do we have a name for our rundown hotel community?
Ooh.
Chat, feel free to throw us suggestions.
Well, it's Art Deco, right? So something like Miami something.
That is not where I go for Art Deco. That's really interesting. Like Art Deco for me goes to Agatha Christie.
Oh, weird.
Interesting.
That's weird.
Art Deco for me is like various parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And then like the Pacific Northwest, because we have so much Art Deco up here. So
weird. I love all this.
But also, who was it? There's a famous American Art Deco architect who did a lot of stuff in Arizona as well. I can't think of his name.
Oh, well, there's Frank Lloyd Wright, but he's
it's Frank Lloyd Wright. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah,
he's more of a modernist.
Yeah, but he did a lot of Art Deco stuff as well. I stayed at a hotel that he designed in Phoenix.
Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot remember what it is called. Oddly, a bunch of his students designed a neighborhood down the street from where I live in Columbus, Ohio, right here. It's like an Art Deco neighborhood with like houses you can live in.
That's super cool.
I do just I just opened up the Wikipedia page for it to see if I could see any like name inspirations jump out, and there's literally a section called Cathedrals of Commerce, which is the most like fucking cyberpunk bullshit I've ever heard. So
yeah,
I love it.
Do we want to call it the Cathedral?
That could be awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Do we want to make it like? Do we want to put an extra layer of pretense on it and be like make it French or something? Like,
sure.
I'm just calling it the Cathedral for now.
I think because I think French for cathedral isn't it just cathédrale? It's like with an accent.
I was just gonna make it La Cathedral.
La Cathedral. Yes.
Look, I'm not that fancy. I don't know actual French. I just know what pretense sounds like.
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
It's really good. So in multiple times in my life, I have been a fairly poor and fairly like visually queer person that has somehow lived in somewhat well-to-do neighborhoods. Like, I've lived in shitty neighborhoods, but I've also lived in well-to-do neighborhoods, and there's a very surreal feeling of being in a space for people that are not you, and just like walking through that space knowing a lot of the people there don't want you there, but they can't physically remove you from the space. And I kind of like the idea of this La Cathedral being like in close proximity to like more like wealthy and privileged spaces.
I love it. Yeah.
Maybe half of it only. Maybe they only abandoned half of it, and we've taken over the half that they abandoned. It's like this enormous building.
Yeah, like a whole wing that has just been left to ruin.
I like the idea that like the building has been abandoned, but it's like in the middle of like a bunch of space that like that isn't right. Like it's probably not technically abandoned. It's probably like due for renovation for like 15 years. What is this? Oh,
this is cool. A building in Vancouver.
I love it.
I love. But yeah, like so it's like this old building that's surrounded by like all these new ones. And like maybe they're connected by like walkways and stuff, and so it just surrounded by all the business, the corporate business stuff, like all the suits basically. We see them every.
Are we the last building that like hasn't been gentrified?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Well, no. Well, because it was never it's not gentrification. It's like, because it's like, because it was built to be fancy, right? It's the first building to be abandoned, not the other way around.
Yeah, everything else has continued to be developed, and this is the one place that is just like, this was fancy when the city was built. But it hasn't been kept up to date.
We used asbestos to make it period appropriate, and then realized that was a bad idea. We haven't bothered to renovate it since.
That's why none of the rich people want to be here. They've got better options. We don't.
Yeah. Yep.
That's okay. We have cyber bodies that were built for us by the worker corp, so we can survive asbestos.
So yeah, apologies to Akea in chat, who is like actually French, that I've now called this La Cathedral. But I got told at some point it's better to be the worst house on the good street than to be the best house on the bad street.
Whoa.
I'm like, that made me feel a lot better about my house.
Deep.
Yeah, the people inside of the Cathedral Collective. Yeah. Cool. So we have a community, so now we can get down to like brass tacks, because we're doing a lot of like very conceptual stuff. Let's talk about our crew. So we can't do this in a thing where we start doing our crew, go into our characters, and then come back and finish off the crew. So just start off with, for the crew, we just need to choose our crew type, and then we can move back into and then we can do our characters, and then come and finish off stuff for like the details of like crew gear and stuff. So our crew types that are available are guardians, protecting their people and their space. So they have like, that's like, this is our turf, fuck off. Burglars, stealing what's truly valuable. Whistleblowers, finding and spreading the truth. Assassins, cutting heads off the Hydra. Angels, rescuing those who can't save themselves. Wreckers, destroying the tools of the system. Or preachers, spreading the good word. So this is mostly about XP triggers and making sure that we all have an idea of like what other things we're commonly interested in play.
I'm most drawn to angels, I think. I like the idea of where that puts us in the space of this city.
I mean, we're in a rundown hotel. Like, yeah, no, that's cool.
I like that too. I like that or wreckers, I think.
Those are basically polar opposites, and they're both really good.
Yeah. Well, they seem to be doing a similar thing, just like in opposite ways. Yeah.
I mean, all of the different types are like definitely still like fuck the system. It's just how do we have a positive impact on this space? Yeah, yeah. Let's be the cop faction.
I think I like Angels a little better. I think you're right because it's a little more people focused, and like we can focus on like the people in the hotel.
Yeah, it becomes about the stories of.
Cool. Yeah.
Wow, that was
Sorry,
great.
that's my cat. Pushing things up because he wants my attention.
Your cat agrees with our decision.
I had Bimo on stream the other day, and he was just mostly he just kept being like really upset and like biting me because I was talking to the camera instead of to him, and he was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? There's not even anyone here."
Odin does that all the time. He'll lie on my lap and like bite my hands.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, it's just like, why are you doing something that isn't patting me? I don't understand.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm easy with type because I'm just such a cyberpunk that I would happily play any of these crew types.
Cool. All
right. They all seem really fun. So
let's do crew type angels. What do we do? Rescuing those who can't save themselves.
We're superheroes, but not really. We're psycho superheroes, psychology superheroes.
Yeah, like the question of like, what does people who can't save themselves? What does that look like? We'll find out like in play, I guess.
Yes,
and we'll get a bit of a feeling for that as we go through building our characters and crew and stuff. So, let's do our characters and find out like who this crew is made up of, and then we can finish off with like some gear stuff. Next, build your characters who exist in that crew and community. Characters have attributes, actions, hard limits, and can take harm. So, each of you besides the GM gets one character to play at a time. Your characters are punks, cast-offs, and miscreants in this dirty magical metropolis. Work out your... That's a good question. Like, this is a cyberpunk like setting that includes fantasy. So I'm interested to see like what magical elements come out in play during this thing. Like we've described pretty like regular cyberpunk, and like I can totally see like some of these corporations having like I can see like maritime like having like conjuring elementals and things like that to like help enforce their doing that sort of thing. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And like
making pacts.
Yeah, right.
There's definitely like necromancy to bring workers back if they're like irreparable. Then we'll just like, nah, death is not the end of your contract. That wasn't in the contract, so sorry, you're back.
Yep. Work out your character's stats, but also work out who they are in this world and how you're connected to the other player characters. Work out why the fuck you're running against the megaliths of capitalist technocracy instead of donning a suit like all the other wage slaves. Where did you come from? How did you end up in this community? What is your role here? So you should each have a character sheet. there. I see that that Cherry is like all over this shit. Like just straight up on top. So to create your character, assign 7 dots amongst the 12 actions and special actions, with no more than 2 dots in any action to begin with. And then you will pick digital spheres, mystical spheres, and capabilities based on what you've got in your special actions. So that's digital, those like digital spheres, mystical spheres, and capabilities are those special actions. And then we'll describe our look, place, and hard limits. Ray, let's. I'm opening up your sheet to see. Have you like completely finished your character?
I did not, because
Okay,
I
alright.
decided to be good and not get too far ahead of myself and see how the world evolved before I did.
That makes, like,
I just have some like basic ideas about kind of physicality and things
Yeah,
like that.
Cool. So yeah, what are people feeling as far as the way they're wanting to frame their characters and things like that? What are people interested in exploring and things like that?
I have an aesthetic in mind and not a whole lot else.
Mhm.
I had this vision of someone who had their skin replaced or upgraded or enchanted to be some kind of some sort of like chameleon type thing that they could change, that is now for whatever reason just glitching out. So they're just kind of this perpetually glitched silhouette that doesn't have any real features, which makes it very hard for them to connect with people. So they often drape themselves in like a lot of like flowing black clothes. So they're kind of like a weird glitch wraith skeleton person. That's all I've got though.
I love the
A
way
scanner
that
darkly.
yeah, I was gonna say you're halfway between a Scanner Darkly and a fucking Ring Wraith.
And also, this is suspiciously like. Do you remember the last time I played this with you, Ash?
Yeah.
My second half. Was,
Yep.
I ended up being a duality, and Ash created the second half for me that was basically that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's a cool.
But it's
aesthetic.
also funny because one of the aesthetics that I was thinking about for my character was that I've had my skin replaced,
yeah.
but with plastic. So
Sick.
like.
That's also really cool.
And the reason for that is, so for anyone that doesn't know, I have a genetic condition that makes me quite fragile. So I like to try and put that into fantasy worlds as well, because I think it's really interesting to explore that kind of thing. And so I'm thinking that my character is physically kind of fragile, and so it is Ella's Damnos, yes.
Mhm.
And so because there's like, I come from this perspective that cures are not really possible. I think that like the idea of curing all disability is just like this weird fantasy that we have in the modern world. And like anyone that lives with any kind of diagnosis like this, we all have to come to terms with the fact that like cures are imperfect. They're usually just like vague treatments of symptoms. And so like I think in a cyberpunk future it would just be manifestations of that. So like say you've got really fragile skin like I have, what do? You have your skin replaced so you can work, right?
Yeah.
So like replaced with like a blue plastic. Like
Yeah,
you
that
know,
makes
like, the blue
perfect
plastic
sense in
you
this
get on, like,
world.
Fridges and stuff.
I love
You
your
know, like that
bleed.
plastic that's nice to peel off on appliances.
That's some serious character person bleed going on there.
Which is super cool. Yeah. And I love the idea that it's like we're not really interested in improving your quality of life. We're just interested in making sure you're still contributing to
Yeah.
the
That's
workforce, which is
certainly
too real. But
That's certainly my
Exactly. So,
experience
like-
of medicine.
I like the idea of like I can't necessarily afford to go get it fixed if I get in trouble or if I get damaged, and like we just like tape me up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Cool.
like new tape.
yeah, that's cool as hell.
So we have Silver Tape Kid and the Scanner Darkly Ring Wraith.
Nice.
What
like how
are they actually called? Are they the Nazgul? Or is that different?
Yeah.
Nazgul, yeah.
I don't know what I want to play. I'm confused by your character sheet.
That is fair. I'm happy to help talk you through it.
Should I come
You'll
up
need
with
to
a
click the
character
you'll need to
concept?
click the dot next to character to make it into a character sheet.
Oh, it just manifested.
I did that for you.
Okay. Thanks, Ash.
You're very welcome. As opposed to a crew, opposed to a crew community sheet.
Yeah, that's, well, neither of these were full before, and now they are, so it all makes sense now.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, you should
I
be
don't
able to
know.
like put dots into the things, and then like add your capabilities, spheres, things like that.
Yeah.
What of the, like, one of the good ways to do it is to be like, what of these actions am I excited about, or what spheres or capabilities am I excited about?
Yes, actions are things like mind, judge, tinker, skulk.
Yes, so they're in 3 categories:
Cool.
mind, body, and soul. And then so mind has study, skulk, tinker. Body has
Oh, yeah.
scrap, scramble, wreck, and soul has sway, consort, build. And then they each have a special, what's called a special action. So that you don't ever roll digital work, you just get extra dice. But basically, if you have 2 dots in, it should be listed as digital spheres there, but if you have 2 dots in digital spheres, then you have 2 digital spheres, two parts of the digital world that you have influence over. Similarly, if you have 2 dots in mystical spheres, then you have 2 spheres of influence over the mystical world. And capability is the same. You have 2 capabilities beyond that of a normal, bog standard human build, right? Like you might have wings, or you might have fucking laser vision.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you can the character chapter has a good, if you want descriptions of anything, I can just read things out from the character chapter for you.
Yeah, no, I am good. I like all of these, so it doesn't help me in any way.
Excellent. That means I've done good role-playing. That is the sign that you've done good role-playing game design, is when someone's like, this is all so good, I want to choose everything. That's yeah.
Yeah.
The digital spheres have been updated. They've been updated to be a little less archaic and a bit easier to process. So they're now, for those in chat who are familiar with the old version, they are now transport, vehicles, elevators, hyperlinks, weapons, guns, EMPs, viruses, comms, so voice calls, emails, remote sensors, environment, air conditioning, lighting, plumbing, vaults, databases and locks, biosystems, cybernetics, medical equipment, industrial, power tools, generators, assembly lines, and then self, others, and homunculi. And then, while I'm reading things out, while people are thinking, the mystical spheres are earth, stone, soil, glass, concrete, metal, air, gas, wind, air pressure, fire, flames, electricity, heat, plasma, water, ice, fluids, and steam, flesh, blood, bones, sinew, and organs, plant, trees, plants, algae, and wood, rot, bacteria, decay, fungi, refuse, thoughts, and spirits. And then there are some example capabilities, but they're not the limits. There, you can kind of come up with your own if you want. But some of the examples are hypersense, so maybe you have dark vision, sonar, magnetosense. Enviro processing, maybe you can breathe water, you can filter dust, or you are immune to radiation. Locomotion, maybe you can fly or burrow. Natural or embedded weapons, maybe you have venomous fangs or laser eyes. Hyperstasis, so you might trance instead of sleep, or you might have a reduced heat signature. You might have resistance to poison or shock or cold or heat or corrosive. We might have natural or embedded armor, scaly skin, or metal plating. So the thing about capabilities is that they might be magical, they might be biological, or they might be cybernetic.
So the actions are mind, body, and soul. So that's where I put my 7 dots among all of those dots.
Yep. into the 12 actions and special actions. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so digital work, capability, and mystical work, which are special actions, also count.
They always
Like
also
they-
count against your 7.
Part of that 7. Okay.
So if you want to have like 2 capabilities and a mystical sphere, then you've got 4 dots left over for other actions.
I want to be some kind of worker. I know that. And I don't know if I want to be like I really like the idea of being one of the workers who's now like defunct because they have too many implants or whatever. So like I've withstood all of the upgrades that I could, and now I can't function in whatever job I used to have, and so I'm just like crashing out here in this hotel.
Yeah, right. So like take maybe like maybe take 2 dots in capability, or because we can't go more than 2 dots in any specific thing to start with.
Yeah. That would translate as capability, do you think?
What, like cybernetics? If our capability, yeah, like being like I'm got like, and like you can also like be like I'm really good at wrecking because I have like metal arms. But if you want to be able to like piston punch walls or whatever, like if you want to do anything that is superhuman in any way, if you want to be a superhero, capability is where it's at.
Yeah. I like the idea of being more mind and soul focused, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
But I don't know how to kind of reflect that with this concept, I think, is my trouble.
I wonder if maybe you want to do like a capability and then that's your only body stat, and then like split your things in. I don't know.
Sure.
Like that's a way that you can be like, I have these physical capabilities, but I'm not talented in using them.
That sounds great. Yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
And then like your actual skills are in these other areas.
Yeah. Yeah, because my body's worn down. Doesn't function the way that it should.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really interesting because I have been thinking about a character who is mostly interested in like easing the physical realities of other people, repairing or disabling problematic cybernetics, or like healing damage to flesh, or just like trying to make people's lives easier. So
I love that. I feel like disability is a focus of our game. I'm definitely projecting. I have fibromyalgia, so I feel like
one of the things that we'll get to a bit later in character creation is hard limits, things your character just can't do, right? Or that are just hard for your character, and that's an XP trigger, right? Like when you hit that, it sucks, but
I love it.
You get some XP from it. So
yeah, I was gonna run with the Ella's Downloads thing and just go with fatigue and fragility in general. So I like the idea that we've all found each other because we have this similar experience of like being worked to damage kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like Snow's character is actually the central pivot around for this crew. Like multiple people coming to this person and being like, "Hey, I'm having a shit time. Can you help?"
I love it. We'll do like an actual good disability metaphor for a cyberpunk story.
Yay. I like the idea that I don't know if you've seen Vikings, but there's the I love the seer character in Vikings.
Yeah.
They like something about them really connects with me. It's like they were a really important touchstone for my game Oracle. But I like the idea that that people come to that Snow's character is acting in that seer role where people come into the dark the dark wherever they're operating, right? Or maybe it's like really brightly lit and be like, help, right? I don't have a specific thing, just please help.
I love it. Very cool. I'm super into this.
Same. I'm digging it.
I'm probably gonna run similar to the last time I played this Ash, where I was hacker focused.
Yeah, sounds good.
Mostly because, like, I still have problems with magic. Like, I still have this personal issue with magic.
What's your personal issue?
I just have, like, a really... I can imagine myself as a hacker way more than I can someone who can grasp and handle magic. Like, it's too overwhelming for me. Like, it's almost like, because I don't process, I'm also autistic, so I don't process emotions very well, and I don't handle them very well. So to me, magic is like analogous to emotional.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things about like this game is that it does basically say hacking and magic are the same thing, but just from different perspectives. And yeah, and like I can totally see that if you're not like hacking is doing the same thing as magic, but from a logical perspective rather than an emotional perspective. I think I'll read this this section that I think is helpful for understanding how this world works, which is I can navigate documents. Beyond flesh, there exist 3 levels of reality: the spiritual, where our intentions lie; the physical, in which we live and breathe; and the digital, where our every action leaves a trail of artifacts. So there's a sort of like emotional, like the spiritual and like magical stuff has an emotional bent, but it also it also exists in the future, like time wise, whereas the digital exists in the past and operates with artifacts of the past. So there is this thing of like emotional future, hard to see, intentional, moves through the physical, the body, the now, and into the past, the digital, the logical. We can look at it because it's there. So that's kind of
Ash,
how that works.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Sorry.
thank you.
That is really beautiful. I was very taken with that description.
Well, I'm glad. It's the like that thing is the core concept of the game. It was like the first like thing I wrote down when I was like, why does Shadowrun have magic? Right? Like what's the difference between magic and technology? Why do you have like, cuz in Shadowrun it's all about the fucking like this really ableist bullshit thing of like, oh, when you add like the body is a natural thing that magic comes out of, and when you add like cybernetics to it, it becomes less natural, and so it's less magical. And I'm like, that's bullshit. What is the actual like? What does magic actually mean when it is compared to technology?
I also have always really liked how in this game, Ash, even though the digital and hacking and stuff is sort of logical, there's still room to play in that where it is kind of metaphysical, where you do have like a representation of like that side of you. Like you have like a visual representation of what does it look like when you're in the digital.
Yeah,
that's spiritual in a way.
Yeah, like a character's digital representation of themselves is likely to be very different to their mystical representation, because their digital representation is going to be made up of artifacts, right? They're going to be made up of like, what's your favorite band? Like, and like it is styled in a certain it will be made up of cultural artifacts that you surround yourself with. Whereas your mystical self is more about like a weird emotional thing. Because like I'd spent like, I'm very familiar with the thing of like being spending a lot of your life very dissociated and being like, who am I as a person? Here are all my favorite brands, right? And being like, that's a personality. I have a personality now. I really like World of Warcraft and Toyota and and things like that, right? Like I have a PlayStation tattoo because it's actually a really important emotional touchstone for me, because that brand is a part of how I understood myself as a person. But also there's other parts of yourself as a person that you can't understand through the cultural artifact lens, and that's that other mystical side.
Love it. I just finished watching Avatar: The Last Airbender again for the second time. That's my favorite magic analogy, I feel like. For magic, martial arts, it's like willpower, power over mind and body is magic, I really like that. It feels very similar.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about here, where it's like kind of like the body cybernetic metaphor. I feel like it's very similar. Like the idea fusing magic and technology are very similar.
Yeah.
I think also for me, pretty much all the best science fiction, the science in it is magic. Like it really, like if you think about, like even in the hard science fiction, really it's magic. Like that's the whole point of science fiction in a way.
Yeah,
it's a very magic-y way of thinking about science.
We have like kind of different lenses that we can view that through as well. So the we can have like science space opera sort of thing, right? We can have Jedi and all those sorts of things where it's like this is sci-fi, but also like but like look how mystical and strange it is, versus we can have Star Trek, which is like, look at this strange mystical thing, this strange like future stuff, it's quite normal, don't worry about it. Right? Like you can kind of try and create awe, or you can create like normality and things like that, and interact with those things that are outside of our experience in different ways. Also, chat gave us a logo for Kraken Inc. And it's pretty great.
That was so good.
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
I missed it.
I've just popped the thing in the chat there, because we have a little.
Wait, where is it?
If you look in the chat window in Roll20, it's in there as well. I've just put it. I just put it there.
What? That's amazing.
Isn't it cool?
I love it. Look at all those arms.
Yeah, he's got so many arms.
So many.
That's great. I love it.
So, should we do our whole character, or should I?
Yeah, let's we can talk about like our characters and build them together is the hope.
Okay. So I've set my 7 dots.
Mm-hmm.
I've picked my digital, mystical, and capabilities. I just have not done my left place and hard limits.
Cool.
What about everybody else?
Sorry, go on, Ash.
No, I was gonna say we're moving on to look and names and stuff after we've got all the adults and things like that. But yeah, Ray.
So I was. So I like to do this thing where, especially when I'm playing with new people that I don't know at all, where I don't have much background to my character, and I like to come up with like weird ways that works in the fiction. So when I first played this game with Ash, my character at the time had 0 memory and didn't know where they came from, and like that gave us some really cool themes to explore. But like, I don't necessarily want to be the focus of the story. But this time I'm gonna do a weird thing where I have no memory again, but this time it was a choice.
Ooh, interesting.
And so Dreamflix has this service where you can discard memories or like bury them, but like leave a little bit where you know that it was a choice. And I think I know that the reason is because I have to do this periodically to protect the people I care about, and it's the only way that I know how to do it. And so I don't have a memory of really what came before this crew, but I know that it was a choice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that,
And
like
I have like a little pile of like, I have like a little box maybe with like these cartridges like from like the Dreamflix thing that I know are like parts of my previous personalities, but like I just keep them as like a keepsake kind of thing, and I never touch them. They're just there that I look at every now and then or whatever.
Here's a fun question. If someone else were to get a hold of those, would that be the same level of dangerous for those people you care about?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, I think, yeah, we'll find
Like
out.
I wonder
Yeah.
if they're pretty secure, but they're like hard drives, like they can be hacked, right?
Yeah. I think that's
They're encrypted, but
yeah, that makes sense to me.
encryption only goes so far.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Also, Adam, thank you for the raid. For those people who've just joined us from the raid, we're playing a game called In Which We Live and Breathe, which is a cyberpunk fantasy game. We're doing session 0, so we are building our characters. We have built our setting. We are playing in the instance, which is a floating city. And within that floating city, we live in a rundown hotel called La Cathedral. And we have four major corporations that run the instance, which are Dreamflix, which are like a Disney Netflix DreamWorks mashup. Longevity Industries, who do use medicine and cybernetics to ensure productivity, and Maritime, who run like the island's environmental services and like infrastructure, as well as like hospitality, and then Kraken Inc., which are they are cracking down on crime. So yeah, how are you going, Snow?
I have I think I'm good with where I've put my points. I sort of avoided physical stuff largely. I'm kind of playing into a background of being someone who probably used to work for longevity, and for reasons currently undecided has moved away from that. But a background in changing people, now being bent to a less horrific end. So I'm now trying to think of a really obnoxious name. I think that's the most important thing.
Make sure it's yeah. Great.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm okay with the stat layout. So
So where have you got your darts?
so I've put 1 in study, 2 in tinker. Tinker seems like the most relevant one. I put 1 in digital spheres to give me biosystems, because that seemed interesting.
Yep.
I also put in a mystical sphere for flesh, and I put in a put into build. I like the idea of some of this stuff being external to bodies, like putting some of this experience and knowledge into trying to create things, possibly for the first time. I doubt that was
like like Tinker is all about changing the way a thing works, but build is for like constructing something new entirely. So
yeah, which I think is a really interesting like opportunity for someone who has never been encouraged to create new things, but rather to just make old things work more efficiently. So I thought that would be interesting, and then I put physical capability in for the glitched skin.
Cool.
Yeah, that's where I put my stuff.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. So yeah, once we've got all our stats and things, we need to make sure that we've got our we go through and do our look. Describe your character's appearance and demeanor. Are they 3 feet tall or 8? What color is their skin? Is their hair dark or light? Kinky, curly, wavy, or straight? Are their ears small or large? Pointy or round? What parts of them are cybernetic, if any? Do they have tusks, fangs, or horns? What color and shape are their eyes? Are they elegant or clumsy? Warm or cold? Muscular or lithe? How do they dress? Bright colors and crop tops and headbands and sneakers? Combat boots and mirror shades and armored jackets? A very fine suit? flowy bullshit and bird feathers? How gay are they? Like super or not very? What does your character look like in the ethereal, where our appearance is dominated by our emotions, beliefs, and desires? What does your character's representation in the digital look like, where we are an amalgam of our words, images, links, and brands? And what do people call them? What are their pronouns? And then from there we do our place. What service do you provide in your community? Create or name an existing so this is where we start creating contacts for our community. So we'll probably get onto the contacts thing after the break. We've got another 5 minutes or so.
Oh, should I share my stats?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I did it. I have 1 dot in Tinker. Second, I like making things, I guess. And 2 dots in digital work. Which do you pick one for each, or is it
you
2
pick one sphere for each dot? Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. I did it right. So I think it did. Oh, I did it wrong. Well, 1 in environment for sure. And the second in so environment, like air conditioning, lighting, plumbing type stuff. And second in comms, I'm gonna say.
Yep, cool.
So she's kind of involved in like that type of stuff. I think she. And let's see, like kind of in the infrastructure, that type of work.
Yep.
1 in capability, which I put into resistance.
Nice.
So she was built to be tough, but is now worn down.
Yeah. What kind of resistance? What is it that she's resistant to? Is there a specific thing?
Oh, probably like those environmental factors. Like I'm imagining her like working behind the scenes and on the island, like doing shitty work. Like,
is this a magical thing, or is it a technical augmentation, or was she like genetically engineered, or?
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh,
right. Like how is she resistant?
I think I don't know. I don't know. I was imagining something kind of boring, like just chrome parts or whatever. You know, her arms were totally replaced, so she could like reach into like very hot areas.
I was like in my head I have like a thing of like having like artificial veins coming out to like a venting system on your back or something like.
Yeah. Whoa. Yes. I like that better.
Right. Like so like you can like breathe some stuff that's probably poisonous or or like it'll vent heat if you're in a overly hot environment or things like that. That's
yes, I love that.
Cool.
A+.
Cool.
That idea, I like that better.
Yeah, it's basically like when you like liquid cool a PC but for a person, right?
Yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah,
it makes me think of aesthetically from Horizon Zero Dawn with crap, what's his name? With his,
I haven't played HCD, so.
Okay, let me find the picture. I gotta remember his name. Hang on.
Cool. So that so I've got these weird veins and venting system. So I probably have vents on me.
Yeah.
That's weird. And let's see. I took 1 in consort. I'm pretty friendly.
Good at making friends.
Yeah, I'm just a friendly person.
Yeah,
I like talking to people. I care about people. And 2 in mystical work. And I picked fire and thought.
Ooh,
and I think
cool.
I think maybe fire would have been part of that, like part of the work, part of her work background.
Yeah.
But that the thought would be more how she is kind of in tune with people around her.
one of the things that I like to ask, and it's kind of a, do you want to explore this now or later, is do you have an idea for what her practice of that mystical stuff looks like, or
like how it will visually appear?
yeah, what does it
on
manifest
screen?
as? Do you have I think we have the question in here somewhere about like, where is it? Mystical work. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Explain to the group the nature of your mystical practice. Some folks speak with spirits and corral them to their will. Others leave their bodies and enter the ethereal plane and interface with the world of thoughts, auras, and energies directly. Some simply memorize spells and incantations to manipulate arcane forces, or let themselves become conduits for magical energy ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. Like, do you want to do you have an idea for what that looks like at the moment, or do you want to find out during play?
I think it is because I just watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, very much like elemental, like these something to do with like the spirits manifest on this island, and like her ability to be in tune with them. Which I was thinking of having her be an indigenous character, and maybe that is bad. Maybe that's a bad combo. Is that too like magical indigenous person-y, or is that okay?
I think if you're conscious of it and you're avoiding that trope, I think you can like this is the thing, right? Like when you play when you play a character outside of your experience, that's okay as long as you do so with respect and thoughtfulness.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's cool. I like the mythological implications of that, and also like metaphorically with this setting, I feel like, you know, any kind of magical energy spirits would be upset about what is happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's cool to like tie in with like characters who have less power in the setting.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of that in like Norse mythology as well, right? And since we're like somewhere up in some frozen ocean,
yeah,
like perhaps like there's room for
I feel like our establishing shot of the start of the series at least shows the city like embedded in sea ice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh yeah. Yes. I like sure. There is room for all kinds of indigenous people.
Yeah, like you could like because we're like in a seafaring sort of thing, you could be talking about like Inuit peoples or like Polynesian peoples or like Sami peoples, right? Like there's a lot of spaces to
or even like Icelandic or
yeah, right?
Yeah. I had sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Kira.
No, you're good.
Finished. I had a technical question, Ash. The spheres. So the wording isn't clear to me whether the dots you count for the number of spheres you have count under like everything under mind, or if it's just whatever's in like say digital work.
So you can let me have a look at your character sheet real quick. Your character sheet looks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Your character sheet looks fine at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, because so it says for each dot you have in mind, you gain influence over one digital sphere.
It should say digital sphere. It should say like each dot in digital sphere. Sorry, that's a typo.
So for each dot in digital work.
Yeah, in digital work. Yeah, you get a sphere.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You get less spheres than you used to, because
yeah, that's what I thought. But because it kind of changes throughout the section from whether it's
it's because I changed it and because I didn't obviously missed a spot in the description.
No worries. Okay,
I will update the text there.
So I will run through my stats real quick.
Yes.
This
picture is very cool too.
Oh yeah, Silence. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. I was like, it begins with an S. I can't remember. But as soon as Ash mentioned venting veins, I was like, oh my god, I know what that looks like. So my character is called Anisian. So like anise, like the spice, and Shan, which is Welsh for, I think it's the Welsh version of Jane, which is the femme version of John. Anyway, it's a complicated name because that's what I do. and they, like I said, are a hacker. So I have one dot in study, which I think is always important to be able to at least read things for hacking. Two dots in tinker, and then 2 dots in digital work. So I'm super strong in mind, because that's where I think, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think as well as the fragility, they struggle with fatigue. And so the first time I played this, my character had a drift chair, which is kind of like a wheelchair. And I think Anishan will have that as well, but they're ambulatory, so they don't use it all the time, just as they need.
Yep.
When they hit their hard limits, or like on certain days or whatever. And so then I have 1 dot in capability, which are cybernetic eyes. So all of these are like based around the fact that that they are very fragile, and so they're like physically they can't really do things, so they've poured everything that they have, and also soul just terrifies them, emotions, and like they want to be connected to the spiritual world, but also it's very overwhelming, so they try to distance themselves. So they put everything they have into like understanding technology and hacking and things like that.
Did you want to put that thing of like being overwhelmed by like the spiritual and emotional as a hard limit? Are you interested in that?
Why not? Yes.
Because then you can get some XP from it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then the last thing is that I have 1 dot in consort, because they are kind of flirty.
That thing where you're like, I don't really understand social cues. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just life.
Yep. Cool. Let's do a check-in with the snow, and then we can take a break and we can come back and like finish polishing off our characters. How you doing, Snow?
I have come up with a name.
Oh, excellent.
They are Violet Viridian, because I really like alliteration, and also those are colors that work well with the glitch aesthetic. And their handle for like online stuff is Vision, because it's also a V, and a Vision is another word for a wraith or a spectre. So
sick. That's so good. I love it. It's so on the nose. like multi-level puns. Excellent. I see you've given yourself the hard limit of crowds, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add another one. I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase it, but like physical contact is going to be one, but I think with the exception of like when it's done in a caretaker perspective.
Yep.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, it looks like we have most of our characters cobbled together. So let's take a quick 5-minute break and come back, and if there's any other little details we think of in the meantime, we can hit those. Otherwise, we can finish off working on our crew. So we'll be back in 5 minutes.